Discipline doesn't actually exist. And I'm tired of people thinking it does. But if you want to improve yourself, there is a few things that we can still study. Everybody wants change, and I, for one, am tired of people telling me that I just need to desire things more if I'm going to be disciplined. Discipline simply just doesn't work until I start doing habit formation. But like, how do I build habit? Or maybe they'll say, just take baby steps, or find what works for you. What do you mean what works for me? I don't know what works for me, and that's why I'm trying to find the answer. The best of all is when people start saying, stop thinking and just start doing. But don't worry, my name is Drew. I'm here for you, and I'm going to help you become more disciplined, or actually more scientifically, understand your brain better so you can take better actions. Starting off with dopamine. This is the ventral tegmental area in the nucleus accumbens. Next is we have the emotional system, which we call the limbic system. Next, for all of our logic and analytical parts, we have the planning center, which is the anterior cingulate cortex. And for sensory inputs, we have the thalamus. Lastly, our habit formation is controlled by the basal ganglia. What is discipline at a core function? It means we have two optionalities, or possibly more, and we have to pick between them. But most often, the bad habit is the one that wins because we desire that thing the most. So if we're going to understand desire, we need to talk about the thalamus. Now, the thalamus is most attributed to our sensory input, and this is going to be very simple. You have what is called a core desire, or at least what I'm going to call it. A core desire, and then a fake desire. For most people, they fall into the trap of following their fake desire. This ends up leading people onto the hedonic treadmill, where they are continuously going after desire in an endless loop without any form of satisfaction. The reason this happens is because your body and your brain have a separation of what you actually need in life. Now, your thalamus, your sensory input, can pick up maybe the smells, the looks, the textures, and interpret all the information of maybe a burger that you saw in advertisement or in real life. Our thalamus then combines a bit of information, and anytime you feel hungry, you associate hunger with that burger. But the secret part here is that that burger is not your core desire. Being hungry is your core desire. That burger is simply the fake desire. It is masking something deeper down. Most often, the desires you have is based around your sensory inputs. Just like being hungry is a core desire, and a burger specifically with fries, a little bit of salt on them, and a drink, that is a fake desire. Something that your mind probably won't believe is that when you desire something like a burger, eating a piece of chicken will give you the same satisfaction. And if you are disagreeing with me, it might be a sign that you are stuck in a habitual pattern of following through with your fake desires. And that is why we are having this conversation in the first place. Your environmental factors, your sensory input, determines not only what your desires are and how you're fighting your desires, it also determines what your working memory is. Working memory is one of the most important factors when it comes to trying to be super disciplined. Because what does a traditional person think about discipline? They think that if I sit down at my desk and I work for a few hours straight, I am highly disciplined. Little do you know that that's not what discipline is. It's simply the fact that your sensory input in your working memory is in conjunction with your goals currently. Your working memory is this giant vast library with all these different books. These books is our individual memory allocations. So if we're trying to work on a project, we're working on a website, a business, whatever it might be, we pick up these books from the library that are associated with this project. That's our working memory, like computer RAM. So if I'm running a business about shoes, I have to gather the working memory of what makes a good website, marketing, and also the information about the shoes I'm creating the website for. But the moment you get new sensory information, your working memory changes. So every time you get a notification, every time somebody calls your name, something happens in your environment. There's a temperature change, making it so you have to get up. And then you have to change your working memory to understand where the thermostat is, what AC or heater to turn on. The same goes as somebody's calling your name. Why are they calling my name? Who is this? What information are they trying to get from me? Your working memory therefore changes, making it so you fall into distraction. Essentially, discipline is anti-distraction. It's an elimination of alternatives. And just so you know, if you have any questions, you can comment down below and I'll answer you. Next, we need to work on the ACC part of the brain, the anterior cingulate cortex. This is the brain that determines our planning and is the closest thing that science has found to actual discipline. Essentially, your brain is only a prediction mechanism. And so your brain has this perfect calculation, the effort to reward calculation. And this is essentially what all of motivation and discipline is combined. If your reward is greater than the effort put into the task, then you will feel motivated to do something, and or your brain will allow you to take the proper actions. So all we need to do is hijack this calculation. When we're trying to be disciplined, we're switching between a task we know we should do, but it has high effort. It's really it's not as fun, kind of boring, compared to a task that is very fun, but it's kind of unhealthy for us. And so we have these two options. And all we need to do is build more effort on the fun task, the unhealthy task, and build less effort for the task we know we should do, such as going to the gym, eating healthy, working on the project, starting the business, talking to the person you've been wanting to talk to. All you have to do is make this easier and make the alternative harder. So without sugarcoating it too much, you have to just build resistance. Every time you go on your phone and you have that social media app you're addicted to, all you have to do is build resistance to access that social media app. You can get a blocker for that app for like YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and TikTok. I know there are mobile blockers to stop you from going on these things. You could also sign out of the account. You could delete the app. You can uninstall it. Do whatever it takes to build resistance for the negative habit. Not only this, we need to be proactive towards the things that we want to do, or at least a healthy task. This includes making sure our brain can understand the effort level at hand. It's very hard to work on a big project, not because they're actually hard, but because your brain can't calculate it correctly. Your brain has an objective point of view of your entire day. It says we need to talk to our family, we need to eat food, we need to do these things, we need to do the dishes, we need to do laundry, clean the room a little bit, clean the house a little bit, and work on the business. It is subjecting that all these things will have an equal amount of time cost, and effort cost, and cognitive and calorie cost. But that's not how the real world works. You see, when you work on a business, your brain might think that it's going to take 10 hours. It might only take 1 hour to do a little touch up on the website. So if you want the answer, here it is. You need to simply write down the things you need to do in your day. I know that was kind of anticlimactic, but write down everything that you want to do, everything you need to do. You can put it in like a 2x2 square of things I want to do, like emotional processing, stuff that I know I should do, things I want to do long term. Something along these lines. Make up your own guidelines. For me, I have a timer on my desk that I set for 1 hour, and I work for that 1 hour, and I take a break once it's done. I don't do anything over, I don't do anything under, or else you're going to train your brain the wrong thing. You're going to train your brain that you lie to it, basically. One thing I do need to mention is that your serotonin levels play a huge role on how much you perceive a task to be effortful. People with depression often struggle to get out of bed. If you've never had depression, you wouldn't really understand logically why this is. Yeah, maybe they're having like sad thoughts or something, but at the same time, you just have to get out of bed and brush your teeth. Can't be that hard, right? You just need to be a little bit disciplined. Disciplined. Let's be more disciplined. Let's just stop that depression. Be more disciplined. But the issue is, if you have low serotonin levels, your brain's prediction mechanism is all screwed up. So people who are depressed often have lower serotonin, making it so when you have low serotonin, it also makes it so everything feels super effortful, even if it's not. When your serotonin is like really low, getting out of bed feels like hell. It's so difficult to do. Alternatively, if your serotonin is high and you're pretty good, then getting out of bed is easy. Doing tasks is easy. The more serotonin you have, the easier it's going to be. Next thing we're going to be talking about is how to defeat your previous habit formation and make new habits. This is the endocrine system and the basal ganglia. Firstly, your habits are determined by cues that happen in your life. This comes down to a lot of environmental factors. This talks back to like what we just said about the thalamus and sensory inputs. Habits build actions on top of other actions. If you commonly struggle with going on TikTok or Instagram too much, you understand that there is a cue and then a result. Basically, getting a notification, going onto a different app, or somebody talking about something or a certain state of being, like a certain physiological state, like you're really bored, you will notice that there is a cue, that physiological state, the notification, that leads into your action, your next action, which is your habit. Going onto the bad app, doing the wrong thing, overeating, not working properly, not cue like the letter, but cue like the scientific term. Once again, change stimulus, block the app, turn off notifications. If you go into your house and you always open the pantry or the fridge and you start to get the stimulus of the food that's right there, change it. Make it harder to access that food. Move the food around. Don't buy that food in the first place. Problem. Okay, I was overweight. I was almost 300 pounds at one point. My problem was not that I didn't have enough discipline or anything like this, or I couldn't have cheat days. The problem is that every time I opened the pantry, I would eat the same set of cookies. Every time that somebody mentioned fast food, I would get the exact same burritos, and I'd get more and more of it each time because it's a habit. I want you to imagine you're having a whole dieting issue. You want to lose weight or maybe gain weight. Your problem is that you need to sustain a certain amount of calories below or greater than your average amount of calories. That's going to make it so every time you see that cabinet and you open it multiple times a day, probably throughout the day, you're going to be gaining those calories. Whether you want that or not, that's simply just something from your habit formation. You don't have to be disciplined. You just have to stop the trigger, the cue that's causing you to take that action. Meaning that get rid of the cookies or move them away from the cupboard. Or stop whatever trigger it might be that leads to your bad habit. Again, notification, a desktop notification, a dirty desk, a cluttered room, a cluttered office. Your dog barks, somebody yells your name. Whatever it is, if that's the cue to get up and do something, and that doing something leads to something negative, stop that cue in whatever way you possibly can. My office area where I'm recording here, this used to be very noisy. And so every time I would record, my dogs would bark, they would walk around a little bit outside my room, something would happen, a car would pass by, and it would cue me to have certain thoughts, a different working memory, as we talked about. That change of working memory made us I couldn't explain to you anything because I kept hearing the little tap tap of my dog's feet. I kept hearing a car drive by, and that consistently made it hard for me to work. I don't need more discipline. I just needed better cues or to get rid of those cues altogether. So I soundproofed my room. I have soundproofing all around, things like that. It's simple. If you cue for something, if something causes an input, you have an input, you'll always get some sort of action after. Oh man, now we get to the big stakes here. We're going to talk about dopamine. This is a very complicated subject that I could probably teach all day long. And if you do want to be taught and you do want to improve your life without having to watch ads, 1,000 YouTube videos, and confusion all the way through, I can be your mentor. Check the link down below. So this is basically the very simplistic version of how dopamine works. So we have a starting point here, and as we think about doing something, our dopamine will rise. So let's think about making a sandwich. We really crave a sandwich, our dopamine starts to rise. As our dopamine starts to rise, we take an action, meaning we build and create that perfect sandwich. As we create the perfect sandwich, our dopamine levels start to decrease. At this point, they go through this little dotted line here, which we call the baseline. Their baseline is essentially just how you feel on average. It's our basic, most median, most average, whatever you want to say, for our dopamine levels. This is when you feel normal. Anything above our baseline is when you feel energetic, happy, no brain fog, you're excited to do stuff. Like as you start to think about taking action for a big project, you feel excited, you feel happy, right? But as you take action on this thing, your energy levels start to deplete. At what point, you're always going to have a trough. Now, your trough is there for dopamine reinforcement. Now, if we're going to be more disciplined, we have to master this whole reinforcement era. This is going to make every task feel easier. If this is your curvature because you made a sandwich, you start making it, you made it, and then you're about to eat it, the reinforcement is going to tell you if your actions were worth doing and if you should do it again. Basically, are you going to be motivated to make a sandwich next time around? The same goes with working. If you try to work really hard, did your actions actually end up with a good result? So if your actions were not a good result. You burnt the bread when making your sandwich. You didn't have the right ingredients. Nothing went right. Your dopamine levels stay below baseline. This is bad. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel mad. You're going to feel whatever other words that are synonym for angry. You're basically not going to feel very good at yourself or anything at all because your dopamine levels are shot. They are low. They are bad. If the sandwich was all right, you hit a middle path, which goes you back to baseline. And if the sandwich was delicious, you had all the ingredients, everything was good, you go up. Your dopamine levels go back up above baseline for a short amount of time. That is positive dopamine reinforcement. Next thing is next. You got to understand how hard drugs work. I'm not sure if I can say the name of certain drugs on YouTube without getting banned, but something that starts with math. We're going to say math. Math has a chance of a 1,000 to 10,000% increase in dopamine. This is an exaggerated, example. I'm not assuming that my viewers take math, but if you watch a lot of porn, you go on YouTube a lot, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, you eat junk food all day, you will have a very high spike of dopamine. Probably only like 10 or 5 times, whatever it is what increases your dopamine. After your dopamine increases, you will hit your trough. But if you had a 1,000 times increase in dopamine, it also means your trough is going to be 1,000 times lower. What's interesting about dopamine is that if you want to get back to your baseline or even above baseline, you're going to have to go up a very steep curve, which means you're going to need another 1,000% increase, another 1,000 times increase in order to get the new peak. Let's say your dopamine has a normal increase. We're just going to say 1 times. We're not going to be too scientific with it. If you have a 1 times increase, you go into your trough by 1 times decrease. Eating a sandwich is not like the craziest, most drug addictive thing possible. If you're in a rut and your trough is bad because you didn't cook the sandwich correctly, escaping this isn't that hard. You just need to have another pleasurable activity to escape this trough that is an equivalent amount of pleasure. So if you like sandwiches, you're in a trough, you just have to try to make another sandwich or watch YouTube or something that is just as pleasurable. But the problem is when you take a lot of drugs or watch porn or something like that has a very high spike, it means that you're going to have something that's also very pleasurable to escape this trough. And then you go on a cycle and the same thing happens over and over and over again. This is what we call cravings. If you have a craving for something, it's probably this. This is what's happening. Okay, I'm sorry to bore you with all this neuroscience stuff. Hopefully you're enjoying though. If you want to be, quote, more disciplined, you want to be so disciplined, I know you do. All you need to do is, for one, not have as high of dopamine spikes. I haven't mentioned it yet, but discipline does exist in the brain. It's within the DACC and ACC, your anterior cingulate cortex. This is because you have willpower. Most people think willpower is a depleting fuel source that once you have it in the morning, it'll just kind of go down throughout the day. That's not necessarily fully true. But what is true is that your awareness of something is the exertion of willpower. So if you have a cookie in front of you and you really want the cookie, but you're stopping yourself from eating the cookie, you sit down with just awareness. You don't have to take any action. You're just aware you want the cookie. That's it. That is discipline. That is willpower. That's the only form of willpower that kind of exists in the brain. I'm sure somebody's going to want to disprove me on this whole claim, but I don't really care enough. And so if you are aware of this information, which is my job to make you aware of this stuff, then you will be exerting willpower on a more average daily basis. If you understand that a cookie is going to have a very high spike of dopamine, and that's going to cause you to have cravings to go on YouTube, then to watch porn, then to do this thing, then to play video games, then to do this thing, and then smoke weed and do these things. And it's going to progressively get worse, all because you had a cookie in the morning. The same goes when you wake up really early in the morning, you immediately go on your phone, immediately go on YouTube, you listen to something because you can't handle your own thoughts, and then boom, you will have a continuous spike and drop of dopamine. So being aware and trying to use your quote discipline on stopping these factors and stopping the high spikes and low troughs is going to be your first defense against needing to use discipline in the future. Please stay here with me because there's 2 more very important things you need to learn. we need to really focus. If you do get stuck in the cycle, there are solutions. This cycle happens because of pleasure. You do pleasurable things and your dopamine gets messed up. What is the opposite of pleasure? I'm putting the mic towards you. Answer. The opposite of pleasure is a difficult thing. If you get stuck in a cycle of a lot of pleasure, all you have to do is something very difficult. You have to go on an intense run, do a cold shower, go do push ups, whatever it is. It's very difficult cognitively. Not saying to hurt yourself, but do something difficult and you will feel better. This dopamine whole spike that's going on here will even out a little bit. If you're doing something like really hard drugs, doing something like a difficult run isn't going to fix you because there's more factors to how drugs affect the brain than just dopamine. But you're watching a little bit too much TikTok, you're watching a little bit too much YouTube, you can't get out of bed, you're eating cookies in your bed. This is what you have to do. Get up, go take a cold shower. Get up, go on a run. Get up, go do something that you don't want to do, and then you're going to not have cravings after. You're going to stop the whole craving thing because your dopamine stuff has been basically balanced out. I'm not going to draw it. This is too much science to fit into one video. Just trust me, bro. Just trust me. Secondly, or I guess thirdly, what we need to do is we need to reflect on a situation. If you do something negative, you do something bad, you eat the cookie, all you have to do is reflect. How did I feel after I did this thing? Instead of just going onto your phone immediately after eating the cookie and suppressing away those emotions and those feelings of shame and despair, reflect on them. This reflection is going to help this part, the reinforcement part, the thing that matters so much. If you want good reinforcement, you can synthetically cause good reinforcement by reflecting on the situation at hand. This should technically be reflection instead of reflect, but even if you do a positive activity and you want to continuously do that positive activity, because it's like you're trying to start a habit, reflect on that thing. If you worked out for the first time, reflect on it. Be like, I pushed myself hard. This is how I felt. Here's the good and the bad things of how the gym went. But hey, I did it anyways. That's going to be positive reinforcement. I'm trying to make this simple for you. Please listen to me. I'm trying to make this simple for you. Please just listen to me. This dog could be you if you shared this video. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this content. I hope I'll see you in the next one. And again, if you want me to mentor you or you just want to subscribe, go ahead. See you next time.